Hey guys, Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films back again with Doctor Who Classic. Last time around, we rewatched The Deadly Assassin. What was that one about?
Well, the Doctor is called home to Gallifrey.
Yeah, I guess, depending on your accent.
Yes. Where he apparently has had a vision that the president's going to be assassinated, and he literally thinks he sees the assassin. He goes up, and the president is shot. The Time Lords think he has done it, so they arrest him, but he calls up Article or Section 17, something that says, I'm running for president, therefore you can't put me on trial until... Anyway, it turns out that the Master has come back, and he's the one who sent the projection into the Doctor's mind, and there's almost 2 episodes of the Doctor being in this kind of mind trap where he's fighting against another assassin and all this other stuff, but ultimately manages to get out of it and finds out that the Master is in charge or is in league with the guy who theoretically was in line but hadn't been named by the old president, and so it's all cleared up and the Doctor scoots away.
Yeah, so it was Chancellor Goth who knew he was not going to be the president's successor. Not sure what the point of having a president is if you're not really going to have a democracy, but whatever. But yeah, so he had this whole plan with the Master so that there would be an election and he would be the only one running, but the Doctor was also running really just to buy himself time to figure everything out. Yeah. And then the Master wanted the Sash of Rassilon, which the president wears, as well as the key to open the Eye of Harmony and destroy all of Gallifrey. But he would be protected by the sash. Okay. But it wouldn't work, and then the Doctor just beat him anyway. So
it's the Sash of Rassilon?
Yes.
Okay. Can you imagine that in some of the rehearsals, or even some of the tapings of that, somebody once said the rash of Sassalon?
Oh, yeah. So...
Ooh, I've got the rash of Sassalon. Get some ointment.
Burn your clothes.
I'm sorry. It was a late night last night.
Well, yeah. But yeah, so... I guess also the point was not just to destroy Gallifrey. The Master was also going to regenerate his body with an entire new regeneration cycle. Because his body, it's seen better days.
It was kind of gooey.
Yeah. An odd choice, considering what happened to the last actor that played the Master. But, I guess it worked. I mean, we accept it, but it's just kind of... It's when you stop and think about it that it's kind of weird. But that really just sums up Doctor Who. When you really stop and think about it, it gets a little weird. So, today we are on The Face of Evil.
And I think we remarked last week that apparently the writers really love the word evil because we've had the Hand of Evil and the Mind of Evil and the Evil of the Daleks and Planet of Evil.
Yeah. The Face of Evil, by the way, which was a mid-90s video game. It was a spin-off of the Legend of Zelda series for not a Nintendo system. This is a weird thing to try to describe in less than 3 sentences, but I will try. Nintendo wanted to make a CD add-on for the Super Nintendo. They pissed off 2 companies doing it, but one of those companies was given the rights to make video games based on certain Nintendo characters. So they made 1 Mario game, it sucked, and they made 3 Zelda games. They sucked even worse. And yeah, The Faces of Evil is what that one was called, and it has some of the worst animation of all time, terrible voice acting, terrible gameplay. It's just terrible all around. And that is all I'm going to be thinking about, and just like with The Brain of Morbius, I'm sure I have plastered the thumbnail with it. So... So yeah, that's what happens when you have these sort of weird, vague titles, is I make stupid jokes that I'm sure only 3 people will understand.
And I'm not one of them.
Exactly. If you know what I'm referring to on the CDI Zelda games, sound off in the comments, and I will say sorry on somebody's behalf. So, I actually haven't played the games, but... now, my mind just went to a place of, maybe I should try to play them on camera, but that sounds like an exercise in torture.
Yeah. And we're talking to just a guy who, just off camera here, has what looks to be about 5 dozen, maybe more, different video games in a shelf of nothing but video games, and I'm sure that's not all of it because your brother has probably that many as well.
Yeah. This is coming from a guy whose favorite video game series is The Legend of Zelda, so it would be very brutal to try to play those games for me. So, but anywho, I doubt any of this mid-90s terrible video game is going to be referenced in a mid-70s British sci-fi show. So,
and by the way, in the mid-90s, the only game that I was playing that was based off of a CD, if I remember correctly, was Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego?
Yeah, that's a good game.
Yes.
So
I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. But yeah, the Zelda CDI games, those were not good. So, and Nintendo really blew it with trying to make a CD add-on for the Super Nintendo, but that's beside the point. Anywho.
But isn't that what we're about? Being beside the point?
Exactly. So, you got anything else beside the point?
I got nothing.
Then let's just go ahead and jump right into The Face of Evil, Part 1. Alright. Oh, we should be getting a new companion today.
Oh, yeah.
At least I assume.
You are the leader, Andor. It is for you to decide.
Oh, Cassian Andor from
But there
Rogue
can
One?
be but one punishment for such a heresy. Banishment.
Boy, they're wasting no time.
You must be sent beyond. No!
Primitive,
She's young,
and
she's
yet
not
there's some
rash.
kind
Do
of
not beg, Thomas. What I said was the truth.
console there
What
beside
she
him.
said.
Well,
Leela, will you take the test of the Order?
oh yeah, Leela. She's the new companion.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, that'll be interesting.
Yep.
Katarina all over again.
Ah, the elusive landfish.
TARDIS lands on top of it. You've got fillets. Odd that he didn't go back for Sarah, but I'm guessing that was a contract thing.
Well,
I think this is not Hyde Park.
Oh, he did go back for
Could be a nexial discontinuity. Must remember to overhaul those traces. But a knot in my hanky. Wonder what that was for.
crossbows. That's definitely not primitive.
well, yeah.
But again, they had that, whatever that console was.
Yeah, and the chair. I wonder if maybe they're so far in the future that they've circled around and gone primitive again.
Well, there's something there.
Then I'll face it. I can take care of myself.
I'll go with you.
No. Go back to the tribe.
Barbara Warrior?
I'm going now.
No. Well, she has shot somebody.
Hello. Hello, did I startle you? Don't be afraid. I won't hurt you.
The evil one.
Well, nobody's perfect, but that's overstating it a little. No, I'm the doctor. What's your name?
Leela.
Leela. It's a nice name, Leela. I never met anyone called Leela. Would you like a jelly baby?
It's true then. They say the evil one eats babies.
No.
You mustn't believe all they say. No, these are sweets. They're rather good. Go on, have one. Go on. What do they like?
They can't be seen. They are phantoms.
Ah, more invisible stuff. Oh, that looked good.
She and the one who is with her must be destroyed. See that it is done.
Got it. Intensely
Oh,
sonic disruptor.
Now, am I crazy? Or that was Tom Baker doing that voice, right?
Sounded like it.
Yeah.
Notice that part of their uniform seems to be like gaskets and things from
I heard something.
some kind of machine.
If they're preparing for a battle, they're hardly likely to send men on patrol on the off chance that you might come back. On the other hand, I could be wrong about that.
Stand still. The evil one.
Oh dear. You too.
Oh, I guess.
Then tread softly, gentlemen.
There probably is reason then that Zoanon is Tom Baker.
Now drop your weapons, or I'll kill him with this deadly jelly baby.
Kill him then.
What?
Kill him then.
I don't take orders from anyone.
Good save.
Take me to your leader.
Oh, who eats half of it at a time?
Appears to be some kind of uniform.
Well, based on a chicken.
And the evil one raised the Tower of Imolol in the Black Wall and gave them to the tribe of Tesh.
Jane is the one. Paralyzes, then kills. There's no cure.
Well,
It was necessary. Come on.
well, she is not afraid to kill. Ah, paralyze and block.
Necessary. Who licensed you to slaughter people? No more Janus thorns, you understand? Ever. Must be recaptured. It is imperative.
I mean, I get it's not good to paralyze and kill people, but that was very clever how she blocked up the hole.
Yeah.
Quickly. Quickly!
Boy, that piece of hull, like, makes a very good gong.
It seems I have been here before.
That's the evil one.
Is it? I must have made quite an impression.
Alrighty.
All right. What a nice twist.
Yeah, so... You know, weren't we just last week talking about what if the Master took the Doctor's face just to mess with him?
Yeah.
And now, there seems to be an evil version of the Fourth Doctor somewhere.
Now, the fact that he doesn't remember this might mean that a future version of him came here.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't appear to understand what's going on,
Yeah.
even though it's apparently based around him. I mean, you caught the... I thought that it kind of resembled his voice, but then you pointed out the voice of Zoanon sounded like him.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing. I thought at first, I was like, oh, he's already somehow hacked into whatever thing talks to Neva, and he's just, getting them to go in. But as soon as he said, oh, she and the one with her must be destroyed, I was like, now why would the Doctor say that? So it still begs the question, why would the Doctor say that, even if this is supposed to be a future version, unless he goes through all of this only to realize, oh, if I cause this in the future, time still has to play out, so he has to accidentally go back and be... I guess that means there's like no starting point to this. It's a paradox. The reason he's the evil one or anything is just because he had to be. At least I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Well, as different as she is, I do like Leela.
Yeah, she's not primitive. I mean, that's what they lead you to believe in the setup, but their civilization has obviously, even though they are, again, very primitive in their particular belief of this Zoanon character, I think we're going to see that this is all based on something that happened in the past that has been misinterpreted.
Yeah.
Now, it strikes me, and when did this air? 70-something, yeah. There was and again, please don't hate me for bringing up the original series of Star Trek again. But in one of the Star Treks, they landed on a planet where there were two warring tribes, if I recall correctly, called the Coombs and the Yangs. And the Coombs and the Yangs were, literally fighting a war that would destroy their planet. And when the Enterprise crew interacts with the Yangs, and ultimately they get down to the point of, why do you do this? And they said, well, it's the sacred writing. And they go over and they start reciting what the sacred text says, and it starts off something like, "We pepnista." And the Enterprise all look around and goes, "Can you show us this writing?" So they go over and they start, scratching away all the moss and everything. And they're only seeing the words "we pepnista," and as they brush more and more away, Kirk notices it says We the people of the United States.
Oh, that's right.
And the Coombs are the communists and the Yangs are the Yankees or the Americans. So that may be what's happening here.
That's one of those weird original series ones.
Yeah.
So I just looked. This was the last day, December 31st of 1976. So next episode, we're jumping into 1977. So
Weird coincidence. On December 31st, 1976, is the day I finally got my degree in college.
Hey, well, there you go. On December 31st specifically.
Yes, because that's the date on my diploma.
Huh.
Because I finished the last semester. I had been going part-time for several years because I couldn't afford to go full-time. And finally submitted my last exams and everything. And in December got my diploma, and I noticed it said, "We confer this degree upon him as of December 31st, 1976.
Huh. I wonder if mine says that.
I think yours does, too.
Yeah, because I finished up college in December as well.
Yeah.
So, December of 2019. Yeah. So, I guess it does. You know, now that I think about it, I didn't really look too hard at it. I was just like, oh, yep, got it.
You got it.
Anyway. Gonna go yell about YouTube stuff now. So,
But you're a college graduate
yeah. So
with a degree in history. I don't even have a degree in history. I have a minor in history. I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in theater.
yeah. Well, you know what I can do with a degree in history?
Pretty much what I can do with a Bachelor of Fine Arts in theater.
Yep. Not a ton. Not a ton.
No.
But
I will say this. Even though I got the degree in 76 and didn't start teaching until 1995, because of the alternative certification program here in Oklahoma, it said if you have a degree in a field and 4 years professional experience, you may then go ahead and take the exam for that. And if you pass that exam, you can take any other exam you want to without actually theoretically having taken all of the courses. Well, I had taken the courses to be able to pass that. So I had my BFA, I had 4 years professional experience at the Oklahoma Theater Center, took the theater test, which I passed. It's not my greatest, but then I took the world history, American history, Oklahoma history, and American government, and aced all of them. So that's what allowed me to ultimately end up teaching world history for, 17 years before I switched to Oklahoma history.
yeah.
So a diploma does come in handy when you need to get specific kinds of jobs.
Yeah.
But YouTuber is not one of them.
No, it is not. I've had this job, I've had this hobby much longer than that. About going on 11 years now I've been on YouTube.
That's a part-time job.
Yeah.
You put in full-time work for part-time money.
Yeah. Recently.
So, one word to all of you out there. Patreon.
Yes.
Help this poor boy get full-time work.
Yes. You can watch all sorts of things. You can watch all videos a week early, with the exception of live shows, just because they're live. And there's also full length available, so you can go do that if you want. Anywho.
Part 2.
The only other thing I was going to say about Leela is she definitely strikes me as a bunch of suits in an office saying, we need to appeal to the older boys. All right. All right, Sarah Jane, they're fine, that's great, but we're going to need girl, not a lot of stuff. In fact, it's almost comical watching her with some clothes, not a ton, and Tom Baker being covered head to toe with like 8 layers and a scarf.
Now, obviously, you have Sarah Jane and all the other companions dressed in contemporary clothing. So it will be interesting to see, going on from this serial, whether she stays in the leather-clad stuff or wears more.
Yeah.
What's the word I'm looking for? I'd use contemporary, but something that is a little more in line with how the doctor dresses. Pardon me.
Yeah.
Coke's getting to me.
I would assume, because if you go to like any other like time, granted that requires them to go through time and not just space, but I assume if you do that and you take her there, someone's going to be raising a ruckus about how she's dressed. So they actually make a joke about that during the 10th Doctor's era, they go back and they actually meet Queen Victoria, and his companion Rose is dressed in just like a t-shirt and jeans, and they're like, oh, what is this unsightly thing she is wearing? So
Well, I tried to explain to my high school students that the way women and men dress today would literally have gotten you burned as a witch or a warlock 500 years ago.
yeah, so granted, a lot of things would get you burned as a witch or a warlock.
Yeah.
So anywho, now let's get on to part 2. I hate that that's all like,
Yeah,
just like, you can spread it out a bit.
should be the face of evil.
Yeah.
The attack must begin at once.
Zoanon has spoken. We shall not fail.
Wonder if this inspired some of the costumes in Wrath of Khan, which would have been about 7 or 8 years later.
Well,
It's only a machine for sending voices over long distances. That may be Zoanon speaking, but it's not God. Gods don't use transceivers,
Are you certain?
aren't you?
Yes.
It's better.
what do they need with a starship?
At last, I shall be free of us.
Who are you?
Don't I know?
You don't recognize your own voice?
I tell you, it was destroyed, but not totally. So it renewed itself.
Ha! If you can believe that, you can believe anything. I'll tell you once again, I am not the evil one.
But it was you who wiped out the
Oh,
attack.
flapdoodle, I was nowhere near it.
That's true. I was with him all the time.
Oh, we gotta start saying flapdoodle.
Attack failed.
They'll strike at anything that moves, except each other. 10 of these can strip the flesh from a man's arm almost before he can cry out.
So a land piranha.
Huh.
The pit is full of them.
Where did these things come from?
Indigenous to the planet. Like the little earworms in Wrath of Khan.
The rope gets thinner the further it goes,
But faster.
but it gets faster too. The rope gets thinner the further it goes.
Silence. He does it alone.
Who's that man?
Which man?
That man.
Oop.
Sorry about that.
Well, anyway.
Very good, Doctor.
Where did you learn to shoot like that?
Shoot like what? Oh, like that. In Switzerland. Charming man. William Tell, he was called. Well,
You've heard that story. He shot an apple off his son's head. It's a complete legend, of course, but it's one of the great stories of that particular time period.
You know you said nothing could get within that barrier.
yes.
Not light or anything.
No.
But Zoanon is inside it.
Yes.
How do we hear his voice?
Well, it's quite simple. You're a genius.
You've passed the companion
What
test.
did I say? Where's the bridge through the barrier? Up the nose?
No, it isn't. Over the teeth and down the throat.
Over the lips, through the gums, look out stomach. Here it comes.
Thomas.
Oh, it's him. It's still good. It's getting a little weirder as we go. Because it's not just the mountain, it's also... They are invisible giant doctors. Must have been a blast to film some of this stuff. So,
Now we have to wait and see if Tom Baker has a scene with himself.
yeah. So,
Now, didn't we bring up the fact that each of the doctors has a doppelganger somewhere?
to an extent, I remember there was Salamander.
Salamander, and then the bishop in the Reign of Terror, wasn't it? Or the St. Bartholomew's Day Massacre.
Yeah, that one. So, but the Doctor never met that one. That was a weird episode. But yeah, I don't remember if there was another version of the Third Doctor, though. So, But yeah, it's definitely an interesting idea to have. Again, though, it could just be that, like, all of this happens and then the Doctor realizes, oh, I need to go back in time and make sure all of this happens or else it breaks time. But considering how many people this Zoanan is killing, I don't think the Doctor would go for that. So, unless it turns out they were only mostly dead, he just paralyzed them for a while. So, which is entirely possible, but that'd be weird. So,
welcome, Lord. Hello.
Are you doing that?
I do you honor, Lord of Time. We've waited long for your return.
Yes, well, I'm very grateful about the honor, but it's really information I need. Please get up. What's your name?
I am Jabal, captain of the people of Tesh.
Ah. Jabal.
well, that already didn't work.
Close your eyes.
I was gonna say, you close your eyes, it'll be like Raiders. So long as you don't witness it, it won't melt your skin off.
He is not the Lord of Time, the one who will return.
He is our enemy, and the enemy of Zoanan. Kill him and the savage.
So in all of this, we still don't know who Zoanan is.
No, not yet.
I love how stupid this all looks.
Looking for something.
Like, intentionally, because it's all weird.
When I was here before, I programmed Zoanan for the Mordi. Unfortunately, I forgot to wipe my personality print from the data core. Or did I really forget? I forget if I forgot.
You're not making yourself very clear, Doctor.
It may have been my own egotism. Anyway, now it has a split personality and half of it is mine. Is that clear?
No.
Well, come on then.
I'll explain it to you later.
Yeah.
They cannot be found.
Continue the search.
Do we have to do like that
Yes.
every time?
It is their custom.
Is the guard posted outside the Sacred Heart?
Yes, Captain.
I think normally he's the one to do that. Oh, good shot. Ooh.
Falling face down, I'm going to push that even further in.
Moving
Oh, yeah.
fast.
Who am I? Who am I?
It's got very existential. Alright, but now we know that it was... Man, it feels like we missed a story, but we didn't. You know? So it's that they just accidentally created new sentient life, as you do. I did that last Thursday, you know? But in also doing so, it just copied the Doctor as well, which is interesting. Again, though, I like the look of this ship because half of it is a decent, you know, just sort of ship set and everything, and then just on it is a bunch of ridiculous looking crap, just these different, blankets or something. You got candles, and their look, the look of the Tesh is also incredibly stupid, but it works. It works for this story.
Now, I will say that one had a couple of minutes of padding there because the chase of Leela went on forever with no real suspense to it. But other than that, again, I'm anxious to see the end of this. And if anybody was watching closely, and it depends on how Alex edits this, you may have noticed me yawning several times. That's not because the episode is dull. Had a very late night last night. Alex's mother, my wife, is appearing in a show. They had their opening night last night. We got home very, very late.
So it happens. But yeah, I mean, still very interesting sort of story. It kind of reminds me a bit of not the Ark in Space, just the Ark, wasn't it? Whereas showing how they accidentally changed things when they showed up 700 years later.
Yeah.
So it's like that, but we didn't have the original story of the Doctor finding this crew.
Yeah.
So
The very powerful and the very stupid have one thing in common. They don't alter their views to fit the facts. They alter the facts to fit the views. Which can be uncomfortable.
That's very timely.
If you happen to be one of the facts that needs altering.
The savages have attacked the main lock. But they outnumber us. What must we do? They will soon gain entry to the tower. Captain Jaber, what must we do? There is no time. The savages are attacking.
Is that your reason for behaving like a degenerate animal?
you didn't do the bow.
Give me...
You'll have to be quicker than that, you overblown adding machine.
In an 80s film called Short Circuit, there's a robot that achieves sentience and is attacked by other robots that have not. And one of the things he taunts them with is, "Your mama was a snowblower."
Just trying to kill you. We've got very little. And if you can't do it?
If I can't do it, the atomic generators will explode, taking Zoannon, us, and half the planet with them. Effective, but crude.
Check that the
So
sides
there's no
are
getting
exactly
away from
aligned,
that.
Sarton. There must be no mistake.
Oh. You can tell these weapons are stronger because they have more balls on them.
Are the projectors set so that the savages will...
I don't know as I'd have said that.
Yes, Captain. All that remains.
Rambo. Perfect scale of music.
Well,
Doctor, I've been waiting for you.
well, that's already an improvement.
We are all free, thanks to you, Doctor.
Well, it was the least I could do in the circumstances after all. I did start the trouble in the first place.
Yours was a mistake anyone could have made.
I don't think anyone could have made it.
For the Master, it wouldn't have been a
Sit
mistake.
down, please.
Hold your tongue, you scrawny mind-man. Oh, you throw yourself, Caleb!
Gentlemen, gentlemen. Democracy at work, I see. Goodbye.
Take me with you.
Why?
What? Well, you like me, don't you?
Well, yes, I suppose I do like you. But then I like lots of people. I can't go carting them around the universe with me. Goodbye. Come out of there. Out. Come out. Don't touch that! Don't touch...
Alrighty.
Well, my first thought, the last two episodes don't match the first two as far as intensity and coherent storyline. Again, it seems to me this could have been cut down to a 3-parter.
Yeah.
But there should be, I don't know, maybe a little bit more explanation of the Teshes, because we got 2 whole episodes of the Seva team, and then just suddenly we're thrown into these, bowing goofballs.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a real backstory for them. And again, I'm not saying that it was bad, but the last 2 episodes seem to be extremely padded.
Yeah. Well, it feels like there's not enough of the Tesh. Like, it seems to be like, oh, well, you've got the Seva team, and how they live their lives, and they're kind of primitive, kind of not, and you kind of have you've got the leader Andor, but you also have Neva, who's the priest or anything. But they reference the Tesh, but you don't see the Tesh. Yeah. And then once you actually see them, and you're like, okay, these are the guys that are, I guess, killing all of the tribe.
Yeah. They look like something out of Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah,
the playing cards. Again, that's a costume choice. Whereas the Seva team were part primitive, but had some of the tech stuff around them. It seems to me that you would go the opposite way and have part or mostly the tech stuff with some primitive stuff, so that you could tell, foreshadowing that they were literally from the same original group.
Well, and also just the fact that I guess that when they go out, they wear the suits, and then apparently they just completely win every battle, despite the fact that we did see one scene where someone just threw a knife and it immediately pierced the spacesuit.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's like I didn't fully understand the relationship between the Seva team and the Tesh. So,
and there was that very brief discussion of eugenics, which was again a very big thing back in World War II. It's also the story of Wrath of Khan, which again came later than this. But do you have the right to try to selectively breed humans so that you can filter out things, for example, like savagery and even physical defects and stuff like that, so that you get people like the Tesh? Or do you realize that most of human history has been based on things that the somewhat primitive Seva team species has done? So anyway, it's an interesting discussion. I don't think they took full advantage of it, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, and also just the fact that, I don't know, because it's just a strange thing that's just sort of like a side effect that Zoannon had. It was like, oh, and also I was trying to create the best species. Why? It was really just, I guess it's like he said, he was making them act out his torment, these two sides opposing. Because I guess he was also trying to figure out himself, who am I? Am I this version that's more of the Doctor, which seems to honestly be the more brutal, darker side, or am I the original version? And those two were basically driving each other insane, and so he was doing the exact same thing between the Seva team and the Tesh. But it just didn't feel like that was, I don't know, maybe because we just had a lot more with the Seva team than we did the Tesh. Like, I just didn't feel it,
Yeah, those first 2 episodes, in my opinion, were just better written.
Yeah. And it's also just the whole thing of, because the Seva team is based on the survey team and the Tesh are based on the technicians, I don't see how the technicians are actually, getting better, because they don't go out. Sure, they make the weapons, but are they good with them? Apparently they were, but I don't know. So it works, but yeah, once you sort of get to the Tesh, it does sort of start to fall apart a little bit.
So what do we got there?
Well, yeah, it was interesting stuff. Interesting companion, definitely Leela, going from Sarah Jane to Leela's. An interesting leap, definitely. And it does make me also realize too, I don't know how long Leela's gonna stay around, but was it 7 seasons in total for Tom Baker, and this would be the third of those. And I did suddenly remember, like, okay, well, I think there's at least one, like, we've got maybe one or two companions, and then we have, like, the team that the Fifth Doctor had. So I don't know how long we're going to be keeping Leela, but we definitely got to start churning through people at some point. Yeah. So, but still, an interesting... It definitely, because you almost think, like, oh, well, she's going to be primitive, and you made the joke of Katarina at the beginning, which... Yes, I do understand why they ended up killing Katarina off. It would be very difficult to use her as a companion. Yeah. You know, just this whole thing of, all right, so, you know, we need you to do these different things, and she doesn't know what any of it is, you know? But with Leela, it's not exactly too primitive. Like, she does understand some things, and, you know, as the Doctor's explaining, she is already picking up on it. Probably more, like... You could probably compare Leela to Jamie in terms of, I guess, knowledge about technical stuff. But I almost feel like she's picking up on things faster than Jamie did. Yeah. Where she's like, you know, it's like, oh, it's their sacred hut or whatever. And it's like, what? It's like, but what would you call it? And she said, well, I would call it the main computer room, because she's picking up on that. I feel like Jamie, it would have been like, oh, they call it the Sacred Hut. It's like, well, what do you call it? At the room where the evil guy's in. So, that was also my terrible attempt at a Scottish accent. I'm sorry to Scotland. So, but yeah, like, Jamie, like, if he didn't need to pick it up, he wouldn't pick it up. Yeah. He could get through his life without picking up a lot of things. But Leela seems like she will start to learn some things, which is interesting. So, a good distinction from Jamie. And yeah, you know, you also mentioned her being literally a warrior, which is what we always joked about with Barbara. But honestly, she does sort of fill in. She has that, you know, curiosity. She doesn't know a ton, so the Doctor can, you know, fill her in on a lot of things. But she is also a fighter. I mean, she flipped that one guy over, and the Doctor was... It almost looked like the Doctor was like, oh, normally I do that. But yeah, that was good. And then that also meaning she's also the muscle too. Yeah. So it's like every type of companion has been rolled into one now. So, but yeah, let's see. We had the Phantoms, which I guess that's the other thing I don't fully get. If Zoannon was trying to, you know, pit the Seven team and the Tesh together, or pit them against each other to see who would survive, why did he send the Phantoms to attack the Seven team?
The only vague idea that I got there was that he was trying to provoke the Seven team to see which of them would step up.
Yeah. I guess it could have been that. Or I guess a lot of it you can sort of chalk up to, well, he was crazy. Like, I guess there doesn't need to be too much logic, because that is the whole point, is that Zoannon went insane because he was half Doctor, which is weird. Like I can kind of understand it too, but it definitely seems like the Doctor was his more violent half, which they don't really go into. It's like, well, what does that say about the Doctor, you know? Which I can kind of understand, like, if you did that in maybe more modern Doctor Who, because there was a lot of times where, like, you know, I can't think of when this happened, but I'm sure there was a time where, like, one of the Doctors, if they were, like, hooked up with their mind, they use all of the, you know, craziness or the darkness that came from the Time War. But I don't know that the Fourth Doctor necessarily has that at this point. Obviously, he hasn't been in the Time War. That's not, you know, something that comes up until modern Doctor Who. So, yeah, I don't know. It just seems strange, even with the dueling personalities, that the terrible part of Zoannon is the part that is the Doctor.
Well, again, just a very brief kind of, in my humble opinion, you've got the logic of the computer, and let's face it, the Doctor is not always logical. And at the beginning, that wouldn't have been too much of a problem. But the longer those two stayed together, the further and further apart that they got. So that the Doctor simply by not being logical becomes the more aggressive and even villainous part of the dual personality.
Yeah. So, and I guess it would also make sense. I mean, especially because you're right. He's the one who will ask questions. He will, challenge things. His entire thing is being a rogue Time Lord. Is that while yes, he has all these great rules and sophistication of a Time Lord, he will also go and do something that he probably shouldn't do. Even when he boasts about things need to be done this way or that, or you can't do this because it's it's immoral or something. There are a lot of things that the Doctor does he probably shouldn't do.
Yeah.
So pitting that constantly against a more logical computer brain, it would start to. Plus, the Doctor hates computers anyway. We've already established that. So, we had the poison, which was interesting, and I mean, kind of the nice thing. Something nice I like is that Leela is not afraid to kill. So I wonder if that will be a continuing thing of him trying to stop her from doing that. But that was really interesting, and it is one of those things where it's there are times in media where whenever there's a hero character and then they kill, I'm kind of happy for it, because there's sometimes when we watch Superman and Lois or The Flash or something where we're just watching is if you just kill them, all of your problems will go away and nobody will bat an eye.
Now they had the opportunity, again, if you wanted to be moral about it, they had the opportunity that when she used the first one, she said it paralyzes them and within several days it will kill them.
Yeah.
So that when he made the antidote and gave it to her, he could then turn around and say, here, make sure that the other two people that she stabbed get this.
Yeah.
So that way you could introduce a little bit more of the morality into it. But, again, perhaps they were trying to establish the fact that she is a warrior, she's a leader, and sometimes you have to do horrible things.
Yeah, so it is interesting, and I can see that still being something going through, at the very least, the rest of the season. Again, I don't know how long Leela is going to stick around, but hopefully at least through next season, I would say, is probably a decent enough run. So
we're, now, 16 episodes into this season?
Yes.
And there's usually 24?
Something like that. Yeah, I'm thinking we've probably got 2 more stories left. Let's see, we've got the Robots of Death. All right, guys, come on. Find a thesaurus or something. Figure out a better title. And then, the Talons of Wang Cheng, which should be... that's it. So we've got 2 more stories in this season. So... But the last one being 6 parts means we'll have 3 more videos for this season. So hopefully Leela, again, I get they can't all be super long runs. I mean, Sarah Jane went through
2 seasons or 3?
I think it was 3.5 seasons overall, or 3 and 2 extra episodes. So hopefully, even just 1 full season is probably good enough. But yeah, I don't know. It's just because I'm trying to map out at what point do we get the next companion. I think I have an idea who the next companion is, and then after her, I think is that team of Adric and Nyssa and Tegan, and then we get the 5th Doctor. I'm saying all of that we're anywhere near the end of this era. We're not. We are absolutely not. So, let's see. We had the Doctor's face on a mountain, which that at least I do understand. Zoannon, that half being that vain to put his face on a mountain. It was funny that it was just the face, and almost because it just reminds me of Crazy Horse, where it's oh man, I want to see more of this, more of the body in the stone.
Yeah.
But
And that was a fun little joke about, we're going to climb up its nose.
Yeah. And it's like, no, we're not going through the nose. We're going through the mouth and the throat. So, and that whole thing of, it's a very surreal experience, being inside of your own throat. So, which I almost wonder if, that exit to the ship.
Don't go there.
Maybe it was the ear.
Uh-huh. That's not where your mind was going, and I know it.
Yes. Because I thought about it, I was like, there are only two other places that could be. I'm going to say the ear. So. Anywho. But yeah, so that was kind of funny. And let's see. We had the test with the land piranhas that he passed. I guess I didn't get it.
I thought he was supposed to drop into it and try to fight them off somehow.
I guess it was try to cut the rope before it opens.
Yeah.
So, and you can't shoot it immediately because it's a much thicker part of the rope, so it would be harder to get. So, the challenge is already to aim at the rope, I feel like. Yeah. But
and again, to me, they missed a fun little callback opportunity there. It's kind of like in Back to the Future Part 3, where Marty picks up the gun and shoots, and somebody says, hey, where'd you learn how to do that? And it calls back to when he says, I used to do this at 7-Eleven. If he would have said, well, I learned how to shoot from Doc Holliday, or, whatever he was doing with the gunfighters.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, because we never saw him with William Tell. So, yeah, that would have been interesting. Although, but that doesn't work because he kept giving up his guns in that episode. Which I remember that was the funny thing. It's like, I don't know why everybody keeps handing me a gun. Would you please take this? So, but yeah, so I also like, because there's the one guy that like slaps Leela and he just kicks the one piranha over to him and then he just goes off, and that's just sort of the end of that. It's like, well, I guess he's dead. I don't know. But yeah, the whole thing of like, oh, they can eat the flesh off of an arm before you can even make a sound. And it's like, I don't know, that guy was already screaming, so.
But there was only one. He said 10 of them could finish off.
That's true. Yeah.
And I wonder if those were just, again, those old cybermats with a little bit of, extra costuming on them.
Yeah. I wish
They moved quite similar to the cybermats.
You know what I don't think I still own, but I wish I did? That the art project I made in 9th grade where I took an old shoe and I turned it into an alligator. Oh, it's so good. Do I not own that anymore?
I don't see it up there. I suspect it's in there somewhere.
Maybe. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, but it's one of the greatest things on earth. Is a really old shoe. And the only reason that worked is because, the sole or the bottom of it started to come off, so that formed the mouth. I've never had a shoe do that since, though. So that must have been a particularly bad shoe.
Yeah.
But anyway.
And he covered it in green duct tape.
Yeah. And I think I put like a soda can at the back for the tail, and I duct taped all of that together. It was incredible. It's
found art.
I made that because that was 9th grade. That was exactly the same time I started YouTube. So that's where my mind was in 9th grade. And look at where I am now. Anyhow,
where were we?
So yeah, we had getting to the ship and the technicians. Now I don't get, because they kept calling the doctor Lord for a while. So I guess they knew about the doctor, but they didn't. Because they were like, is he Zoannon? Is he not?
Well, that may have just been the voice recognition that, because Zoannon's voice sounded like that. They may have originally thought that he was part of Zoannon, but then they began to realize that he wasn't.
Yeah, I guess that's it. And they were going to... They wanted to figure out why... Because they also thought that the savages could get through the time barrier, but they obviously can't. So who kept opening? I guess Zoannon kept opening the time barrier.
Again, deliberately pitting the two tribes against each other.
Yeah, and they both thought that the other one was doing it, so that's why they attacked. And yeah, the whole explanation is that the Doctor accidentally imprinted part of his mind on a newborn sentient computer, and it drove it insane. But it's all right now, because he managed to get rid of it.
Gave him some therapy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, pretty much, because it didn't understand anything. It didn't understand that the Doctor was a separate person, basically. So, and then yeah, just the whole thing going around the ship. The different, honestly, the weapons they had kind of looked like my old alligator shoe project. So, but yeah, and then they got the big one. Now with more spheres on it. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Anyway, but yeah, but that was interesting. And then Neva, I guess he just never was being controlled, and then he just lost it. And I feel like we missed like 2 or 3 scenes with him, because he started doing stuff, and I was like, I don't know how we got here.
Well, it's one of those things where if you are a true believer all your life, and then you find out that everything you've ever been taught was a lie, he, more than anybody else, he turned against Zoannon and said, because you have literally destroyed my life, I'm going to destroy yours.
Yeah.
Not realizing he was going to die in the process.
And I guess because he also thought that Zoannon will lead us to victory, that's when he started losing it. Because, yeah, they did not win. So, but yeah, but that worked out. And then Zoannon materialized a couch and a record player.
Phonograph. That's
a phonograph.
That's a very old, like Edison phonograph.
Oh, yeah. So, would something like that be able to run modern day records?
Possibly. We've got a gramophone. And the records for that one are really, really thick. I don't know if you've ever seen modern day albums. The vinyl is very thin. These, it's like a 1/4 to 1/8 of an inch. They're actually very heavy records. But you put them in there, you turn the crank on, you set the needle down, and it still plays.
I wonder if there are any hipsters out there that have something that old, but they play modern records on it.
I don't know. Maybe they can tell us.
Yeah. Let us know. Hey, if you're a hipster, be sure to like and subscribe, and also leave a comment that you are a hipster. Why don't you just out yourself in the comment section? So, anywho. But yeah, and then just sort of the last thing is Leela barging into the TARDIS. So yeah, we get to keep her. But yeah, overall, a good episode and a good introduction for our new companion.
Yes.
So, you got anything else?
I got nothing.
All right, then. Well, next time we are on to, what was it? The Robots of Death. Come on, guys.
I mean, seriously. They've got those little magnets, and they just pick some up, throw them against the refrigerator, and goes, see, we've got the words robot and death. Okay, the Robots of Death.
Didn't we have an of death in the 4th Doctor's era, too? I feel like we might have. Hold on, let me pull up the thumbnails. We had Robot already.
Yeah.
So there was already that. Ark in Space, Uncharted Experiment, Genesis of the Daleks, Cybermen, Zygons, Planet of Evil, Mars, Invasion, Morbius, Doom. No, it was Doom. That was what I was thinking of. Okay. Alright. Because I was thinking, because we've already had Robot, so if we had another thing in the 4th Doctor's era that was of death, then that would really be lazy. Yeah. That said, I feel like at some point we've had an of death in these episodes. I just can't think of it. So,
but we had Death to the Daleks.
Right. It may have been that. Yeah. I don't know.
But again, the face of evil.
I guess.
I mean, because it is his face on the mountainside. But again, a kind of weak title for this episode.
Yeah, if I mean, I don't know what else you call it, like the false god or the curly-haired god or something like that. I don't know. Well, it's also just a strange thing. Like, how'd they come up with the idea of like, all right, we're going to have this insane computer that is also part doctor. So Tom, you're really gonna have to like scream a couple times into a camera and really sell it, you know? So, oh well. Well, we'll see what the Robots of Death entails next week. But that is basically it. With all that being said, we're Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films, and we will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around any of those. There's a playlist for all of our Doctor Who classic reactions, as well as another playlist for all of my modern Doctor Who reactions if you want to go check those out. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.